All right, so next I want to talk about how you can go from just knowing scale patterns and knowing how to play songs that use those scale patterns to actually becoming a player who can improvise and jam and create your own music. So I'm assuming that you've got the scale patterns down, you've learned a bunch of riffs and solos, you see how other players are using it, you've picked up on ideas of how you incorporate different technique as you play in the patterns, but now you're really you want to do kind of your own thing with it. You can play along with music, and you can just simply play up and down a scale pattern, and it will sound musical when you play with a track. Let me give you an example. Here's a track that's played in the style of Suzy Q by Creedence Clearwater Revival. We talked about this earlier. It's got a pentatonic riff. It's in E minor, and I can just play E minor anywhere on the fretboard over this, That's all well and good, but that's a start. But you might be thinking, okay, but how can I improvise and jam and phrase in a more meaningful way where it doesn't just sound like I'm playing up and down scale patterns? And the answer is by taking the licks and the phrases that you learned from other songs and building phrases based on those ideas. And that process can start by simply taking the riffs and the solos you've learned and replaying them over other pieces of music. So if I put my track back on here for a second, I know that I can play the actual Suzy Q riff that's part of the song. So that would be a good place to start with. So I know that riff, so the first thing I could do is think about, all right, how can I move that riff around the fretboard so that I can eventually do something different with it? So you can work it out in different positions. You might come up here, There it is, an octave higher in a different position. I can do the same thing up here. Okay, so let's try that again with the track. So I can play it here. Okay. All right, so now I at least know how to move around the fretboard a little bit more. I've gotten away from the open position. Now maybe I can take that riff and let me just try to vary it a little bit and use its ideas as kind of a theme in my own improvisation. Here we go. So maybe I'll start with the riff. I'm just trying to keep it simple and just play some variations on that riff and fill in a little bit with the scale pattern here. So I'm kind of taking those first steps to, taking what I know and learning how to do something a little bit different with it. Now, I mentioned the song Green River by Creedence Clearwater Revival. It's a different song, but it has a riff in it. You know what? I could play that riff over this song. Here's my Suzy Q backing track. I'll fit Green River into it. Okay, let me take this riff and let me think about how I could play the same notes in some different positions. Here it is, an octave higher. Or how about... Okay, this is good. So let's put the track back on. And I'm just going to move around the fretboard a little bit more here. So Okay, so let's put some variation on it, and let me see if I can mix it up with some of the ideas from Suzy Q. Here we go. How about... Okay, so I'm just mixing it up. I'm taking those ideas and I'm mixing it up. What about Purple Haze? It also used E minor pentatonic. Can I make that work over this track? Let's see. Here we go. So... yeah, it can work. It sounds a little strange because it sounds like I'm playing Purple Haze over a backing track. That's not Purple Haze. But I'm just going to take these ideas now and let me see if I can add some variation and make something kind of new out of it. And then I'll mix in some Suzy Q and some Green River too. So here we go. Okay, I'm just improvising here. I'm just keeping it really simple, and I'm just trying to take ideas from these songs that I've mentioned. By the way, I also mentioned the guitar solo to Hey Joe by Jimi Hendrix. Let's see if I can fit that into the track. Here we go. Yeah, that works. Okay, let me mix it up with some of the other song examples. All right, cool. So now I'm really starting to put something together here. Now, if I had started with that little jam that I just played there, and that's the first thing you heard, you may not have necessarily recognized that, oh, he was just taking some ideas stolen from Suzy Q and Green River and Purple Haze and Hey Joe and mixing them up. You may not have necessarily heard it that way. It probably just sounded like, now here's a guy that knows how to phrase in the pentatonic scale without necessarily sounding like he's just playing up and down pentatonic patterns. But of course, now that you have seen how that process works, you know where I got those ideas from. I call this process imitate to create. Learn what others have done with the scale first and get ideas, and then slowly start to rework those ideas in your own way over music, and then you will eventually learn how to create your own music and play in your own style and improvise and jam. So let's do this one more time. I'm going to use a different track here. I've got a track that's played in the style of Eric Clapton's Cocaine. So let me, let's see. We'll add some dirt here, and let's try some of the same ideas and see how it sounds over Cocaine. That was Hey Joe. Let's see. How about now? I'm thinking like Purple Haze. How about some Green River? Some Susie Q. There's some guitar soloing in the track too. Just ignore that. So, and by the way, I can always fill space by just playing up and down the scale. I don't want to do that all the time, then it just sounds too much like scale. So I might do something like. Mix it up with some phrases and some, just ascending and descending scale too. I'm in the position of Purple Haze now. How about action there. A little more Hey Joe, actually. Anyway, you get the idea. I can go on all day. Obviously, I've been playing for years. I've learned so many riffs and guitar solos over the years. I've already gone through this process that I'm describing for you here and learned how to incorporate those ideas from songs I've learned into my playing. So it's easier for me at this point to be creative and just kind of riff and jam freely. But you'll get to that point too. It just takes some time and you just have to follow the steps, right? So you got to learn the patterns. You've got to learn songs so you know how to use those patterns in music. And then every riff and solo that you learn will help you build your vocabulary of licks and phrases that can be part of your own playing. You're imitating to create. You're copying initially, and then once you copy, you're learning how to be creative with that. No two people think alike, so you are going to rephrase these licks and stuff in your own way, and the more you do it over time, you can eventually, your own style is naturally going to come out of it. In fact, this is exactly how all of our favorite guitar heroes honed their chops and created their distinct styles. Have you ever heard someone say, yeah, you can hear a lot of Albert King influence in Stevie Ray Vaughan's playing? Well, what do they mean by that? What they mean is you can hear Stevie Ray Vaughan playing Albert King licks in his solos. If you read up on Stevie Ray Vaughan at all, you know that back in his informative years, he taught himself how to play by listening to the records of his favorite players over and over and over and learning how to play their licks and solos and playing along with the records. So those licks became part of his vocabulary, and then he began rephrasing them over music, and he put together his distinct style based on his different influences and what he threw into the soup and mixed up, and because of his own special touch and everything, he created his unique style. But he followed the same process that I am describing and suggesting that you follow. Everybody follows this process. You can take any famous guitar player who is known for playing memorable guitar solos, and you're going to find that they had heroes at one point, and they were learning songs and playing along with records, and then they went from there. So if you think that maybe you can just go from from 0 all the way up to soloing like Eric Clapton and skip everything in between. Well, look, I'm going to tell you right now that that's not going to work. So you're going to disappoint yourself because it's not going to happen. You need to follow that process. You've got to take those steps that everybody takes to learn how these scale patterns become music. Over time, the more you do this, you'll stop thinking about recycling licks from songs, and ideas will just start to come to you more freely, because you'll be comfortable with how to move in the scale patterns and how to play phrases at that point. So work on those pentatonic scales, learn your pentatonic scale songs, work on playing over music and playing along with tracks, and stay tuned for some more information about how you can understand how guitar music works and become a better guitar player. I'm Desi Cerna. Thanks for watching.